Despite two incredible, but at this point predictable, gaffes by Joe Biden yesterday.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president until I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. He's going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Joe Biden's press conference yesterday actually went relatively well, and he received a decent amount of praise from Democrats following this press conference.
Why haven't they had him doing a lot more of these? That really is about as comfortable as he's going to get.
There was the moment at the beginning where he said Vice President Trump instead of Vice President Harris, but he did have lengthy answers on subject areas that he knows very well.
I think it's fair to say there were obviously some verbal missteps. There were some periods of haltingness, but also periods of genuinely impressive command and fluency.
He is not only strong on foreign policy, he is just fundamentally right on foreign policy.
So give some credit where credit is due. It was a solid performance, except for one flood.
So look, I don't take what CNN or MSNBC says at face value and just believe it. And by the way, I don't think that's irrational. I think they've earned their poor reputation. Most Americans do not trust them, and I think that's for good reason. If they want to be credible moving forward, hopefully they start telling the truth. I doubt that'll happen, but whatever. However, I did watch the press conference with Joe Biden, and besides that air at the beginning where he called Kamala Harris Donald Trump, it was pretty good. Like, it looked like an old man mannerisms, but basically gave pretty reasonable answers the entire time. And I think especially in the context of the recent 4 major media events, the debate where this all started, where he was terrible, that interview with George Stephanopoulos, the phone interview with MSNBC, and then this was by far his best appearance of those 4.
Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
He came home from Europe about 11 or 12 days before the debate, spent 6 days in Camp David. Why wasn't that enough rest time, enough recovery time?
Because I was sick. I was feeling terrible. And I've not lost. I haven't lost. I beat him last time. I'll beat him this time. And this is a guy who, look, we talk about debates. Look at his performance with debates. He lied over, Trump has 50 lies.
So compared to those 3 appearances at the press conference yesterday, he, to be honest, looked quite a bit better. He wasn't doing that mouth open thing when he wasn't talking. And even the questions that came to him where it didn't look like he could have even been prepared for it, off the cuff, he had a pretty good answer. He had a pretty good back and forth on certain questions with reporters.
Felicia Schwartz, Financial Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Presidency is the most straining job in the world, and it's 24/7. How can you say you'll be up for that next year, in 2 years, in 4 years, given the limits you've acknowledged that you have today?
The limits I've acknowledged I have?
There's been reporting that you've acknowledged that you need to go to bed earlier and your evening around 8.
That's not true. Look, what I said was, instead of my every day starting at 7 and going to bed at midnight, it'd be smarter for me to pace myself a little more. And I said, for example, the 8, 7, 6 stuff, instead of starting a fundraiser at 9 o'clock, start at 8 o'clock. People get to go home by 10 o'clock. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about, and if you looked at my schedule since I made that stupid mistake in the campaign, in the debate, I mean, my schedule has been full bore. I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball? I mean, look, he's done virtually nothing.
So I know everyone's grading Joe Biden on a massive curve right now, but that was a pretty good answer. He challenged the premise of the question. He didn't just accept it. He went, what is that? And then he explained himself, gave a decent answer, I think, and he even made a shot at Trump, which is pretty funny that he fills his scorecard out before he hits the ball. But is Joe Biden doing decent in the press conference yesterday? Actually the worst case scenario for Democrats, because now they just look like an incredibly divided party. So many Democratic lawmakers have already stepped forward publicly to say Joe Biden should step out of the race.
There are now 17 Democratic lawmakers telling Joe directly to step aside.
Many celebrities are also calling on Joe Biden to reconsider his 2024 election bid. as George Clooney wrote an op-ed recently in the New York Times, which was covered very widely in the media. So now Joe Biden just had a press conference where he looked a lot better than he did in that recent debate with Donald Trump. What are the Democrats going to do moving forward? I don't think either path is great. If Joe Biden stays in the race and he's the nominee, then a whole bunch of people who just told him to publicly leave are going to have to pretend that he's this great candidate now, including many celebrities, many big donors, are going to have to say, oh, we got it wrong and we actually think Joe Biden's great. That'll be, I think, a hard sell. And then the other path would be, if they can convince Joe Biden to actually drop out, I think a lot of people are going to be mad about that, especially if Joe Biden has a couple of decent public appearances like he did in the press conference moving forward. I think it's going to be hard to sell to the entire Democratic Party, every Democratic voter, that they must replace Joe Biden. If you look online, if you look on X, if you look on social media in general, it is not unanimous that they should replace Joe Biden. So I think moving forward, the Democratic Party has a massive crisis on their hands of what they're going to do, how they're going to fix this, how they're going to basically get to some sense of unity before the November election. And if you're looking at it right now, I think Donald Trump and the Republicans are definitely in the driver's seat and in a much better position. So with that said, thanks for watching this video. Have a good day.